guest. So my first question that I have for Avanti is, Avanti, why did you choose Kashmir, temples? If you can correlate all this and a book, why a book?
Good afternoon, everyone. And a very warm welcome and namaskar to everybody sitting here. I'm really glad to see everybody smiling, and thank you, Bhavesh, for a beautiful roaring start to the event. It just got some energy to all of us. So, like Bhavesh just started by saying that history को story की तरह अगर समझना चाहिए, और मुझे वही लगता है कि शायद थोड़ी गलती हो गई है हमारे करिकुलम में कि हिस्ट्री को अगर स्टोरी की तरह हमने बचपन में पढ़ा लिया होता तो वो बड़ा गलत समझे. So with me it's a different story because I had no history ever in my school, college, in my masters and everything. But now I feel that it is a subject which is very close to me, and I enjoy this journey of researching, reading, exploring, going to libraries, taking a photography, and revisiting basically what we used to do in college life. So, like Bhavesh asked me, why Kashmir? Well, I have a very simple plain question to this, that I belong to Kashmir, I am a Kashmiri myself. And I am fond, I would say fond, but I'm in love with the word called India, the word called Bharat. I love the celebration that we have every day in India. So I want, it's not just Kashmir because I'm Kashmiri, but I want to bring out all the cultures. I want to understand for myself first and then share it with my readers, the beauty of Bharat. So because it's baby steps and one thing at a time, I'm starting with Kashmir. And unfortunately for the longest time for Kashmir, the narratives have always been very depressing, very disturbing. So my idea is to bring out that aspect of Kashmir which ordinarily most people wouldn't know. It may come as a surprise to many of you that in the 60s and 70s we used to have a thriving music festival in Kashmir. We used to have, regatta, which was a sports event in Kashmir, and it used to run for weeks together. And employ people, get them engaged, and that's how the economy worked. And similarly, there were many other things. So, the beauty of Kashmir. And with this book, I'm trying to bring people's attention to the old sculptures, the monuments, the old temples of Kashmir, which got lost in time. And again, without demeaning, without bringing anything down, I'm trying to bring forth the culture of Kashmir. Because if I can quickly take a minute and explain to the audience that Kashmir is the fountainhead civilization. There is a lot that has happened in Kashmir. I'm talking about 2,000, 3,000 years back. So, the Natya Shastra was worked upon, was developed by Bharatmuni in Kashmir. The yoga asanas were developed and worked further in Kashmir. There were the theatres, as I said, Bharatmuni, then medicines, physics, everything. There was a lot of work done in Srinagar, and unfortunately, same story. Nobody is interested in ancient Indian, Bharatiya stuff. We get so overwhelmed by foreign things like America and the rest of it, that we forget our nativeness. So my idea through all my work is consistently feel pride in what is mine, because I'm perfectly okay with appreciating what's in Persia, I'm perfectly okay with appreciating what's in America, but I am first got to know what's my root, what's my beginning, what's my strength. So even I say that to all of you because you are students of future, you're this country, you're the future of the country. So first understand your country, first understand Maharashtra, first understand India, first understand your originality, and then of course the world is yours. So I think that's my driving force.
And why did you choose a book, not something else as the medium of passing the message?
Because I think writing is my way of expression. I'm a very private person. I enjoy expressing whatever I have to through my book or through my art form. I'm not a very much of a public person. I can't express, and I truly feel there's more justice in putting it here because you are not going to sit here and listen to me for all through these 200, 300 pages, right? So if I put it out there, it's all documented. Whoever, whenever wants to refer to the book is all there. And again, if we talk about the social media, doing those podcast stuff, so मजा नहीं आता है मेरे को book में मजा आता है and it's got pictures also so yeah.
Great. So हमें कैसे पता चलेगा कि आप लोग सुन रहे हो? A lot of times it will so happen that you feel that what she's speaking is new to you. हमने ना कश्मीर बहुत अलग सुना हुआ है. Started with that. Kashmir, अगर ये नाम लिया, what comes to your mind first? Temples never come. कभी आता है? There could have been other words also, but yes, you're not wrong when you say this. So, when all of this is happening, she's taking out a subject called temples and putting that in front of us. That's huge. Any story that you would like to share? Any incident that you would like to share? जिसने आपको बोला नहीं अब ये करना है, अब ये बुक लिखनी है या फिर ये सामने लाना है?
Thank you for that beautiful question because ये बहुत ज़रूरी है कि I share this aspect also because in your heart you always carry a little hope कि ये मुझे करना है, So I haven't okay, I'll tell you this small experience I had. I was visiting Jagannath Puri with my family, and when we were boarding the flight from Delhi, I'm Eastern Delhi. So I saw a group of like 30-40 Sikhs at the airport, and then in the craft, and then in the same bus, the same hotel. And for some reason, I got a little curious because Jagannath Puri and Sikhs. I wasn't able to. Please excuse my ignorance, but I wasn't aware about what I was going to see. So I got curious and I asked this lady, this senior old lady, ma'am, why are you visiting this whole part that where are you going? So she said, Avanti, there is I'm sorry, she didn't know my name, that's later, but yeah, she said, there is a Gurdwara in the thick of the old Puri city, which is next to the shore, and it is 300 400 years old, and we all go there as a dearth, like a pilgrimage, or they have a group of Sikhs going from Nagpur, from Chandigarh, from other parts of India, they go visit there. So, and I got curious, I thought let me explore and see. So me along with my husband, we both ventured out, not knowing where we were going, but we went walking into those thick valleys and the labyrinth of how old cities are. And then I suddenly see a non-conspicuous small structure which was like 400 years old. And that place attracted me so much that we practically sat there for 2 hours listening to the kirtan. And how Gurdwaras are, the kirtans are always, bhajans are always happening. So we sat there and we were so overwhelmed, not just by the peace and tranquility we found there, but also I personally, when I stepped out, I, to my mind, thought that if there is a place which is not known to larger public at a city like Puri, imagine the plight for such structures in Kashmir, in Srinagar. So somewhere that sort of became like my trigger point, and within 2 days I called up my publisher. I said, listen, fellow, we need to do this. Let's get on with it. And he was more than willing. He said, yeah, please, let's do this. And then of course the research, the visits, the interviews and everything. It took me around 1.5 to 2 years to do because this is a serious topic, it's a serious subject. You want to be sure of what you print and what you write. So, and then of course the book happened and I happened here.
How, what, can you hear me like this?
Yes.
That is what I was asking her, when did you last shout at something? And the obvious
I think she's got
Can you share the name of the Gurdwara and what's the significance of the Gurdwara?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for that question.
It's called, so there's a spring in that Gurdwara, which Guru Nanak Ji had dug out for the local people because the seawater was saline and he had dug out that spring. It's called Bauli wala Gurdwara. Bauli. So he's dug out a spring. So there's a step. There's a step. Well, in a छोटा सा है. You go down and you do matha teko and then you come out. And that's called a Bauli wala Gurdwara. So there are two, but the new one, I mean, there's one which is a new construction. I mean, you can go there, but this is the one I'm talking about. It's an old structure. And just next, the beauty of, again, India. There's a same small structure, must be smaller than this, just this side. So there is a Gurdwara with the Granth Sahib, Holy Granth Sahib on one side, and then there is your Apna Jagannath Ji and the Subhadra Ji, same, yes. So that's the beauty. It's Bauli wala Gurdwara. You can Google it, you will find it.
I think I don't need them.
Most spectacular what saying is
Sorry?
pattern.
Patan.
Wow, yes. Most spectacular. Wonderful.
Patan is a temple in Kashmir. Yeah, it has.
Patan is a temple.
Yeah.
The steps of Patan.
Acha.
Rani ki baat. That's what it is.
So I had one more question. Temples, we see temples where we generally जाते हैं, there is some process that we follow. But temples, उसका जब आपने इतना history पढ़ा, you went down to that level of understanding how Kashmiri temples were. Only of that zone, but fairly temples का वही उसका output वही होता है, उसका वो process follow करने के लिए बनता है कि there are some more things to it. As in why temple?
Okay, so to tell you briefly, this book has 4 categories of temples that I have focused on. One is a set of temples which have been, decimated, but the structures are there. You can see the pillars, you can see the tower, but they aren't living temples. So people don't go there to pray, like offer flowers and coconut and prasad and everything. Then the second set of temples are temples which are completely demolished. So you can't even see the columns, you can't even see the structure, but you know from the debris on the ground that there used to be a temple here, and the dating and the mapping and everything done there. Then the third set of temples are the living temples, where living temples are the temples that you're talking about, where people go and offer their prasad and flowers. But unfortunately, there are only 3 of them now. And that's why I've listed them there as my submission to the higher powers above. So those 3 temples are living temples. Shankaracharya, I'm sure you would have heard about, Hari Parbat and Tumma. These are 3 temples. People go, but the strength of people, the number of people isn't as it was long back. And the 4th category of temples that I've put in the book are Bhairavas. Now, you might ask me why Bhairavas and what Bhairavas have to do, but Bhairavas is a form of Shiva. They are the protectors, they are the saviors, it's a form of Shiva who tells us to bring our ego, fear, dirt, or our fears down. So, when the city of Srinagar was getting planned, which is, in this book I have temples which are from the BC era also. So, when in the 5th or the 4th century, the king Pravarsena II was designing the city. See, like Kashi is all designed as per the Vastu Shastra, the principles of Vastu, ki kahan pe kya hona chahiye, kaise hona chahiye. Srinagar was also developed on the same pattern by King Pravarsena. And at that time, this temple, which is the Hari Parbat temple, was in the center of Srinagar city. So taking that as the center, you would know this very well as an architect. So at the center of the city, he had taken 4 directions for the 4 Bhairavas, those temples for those 4 Bhairavas, and then the Dikpalas in the 8 directions. So that's how the city was designed, and those temples aren't there anymore now. They are also decimated completely, so that's the 4th set I put in the book. So for your consumption, there are 3 living temples. But idea is to bring all these 40-50 temples as living temples in coming times.
So, if anybody is planning to visit Kashmir,
recently I have been to that temple near Ashmaka, the Sun Temple जो है. हाँ, वो बहुत ही बुरा लगा था क्योंकि I went to Odisha also. So I travel a lot by my bike to all across India, especially interested into ancient temples. तो हम सन टेम्पल देखते हैं उड़ीसा का तो बहुत ही खूबसूरत है, आज भी हम उसको सब कुछ टाइम भी बिल्कुल देख सकते हैं. वही सन टेम्पल अपने कश्मीर में लेकिन इतना खराब हो चुका है कि कुछ भी नजर नहीं आता वहाँ पर. कुछ भी बड़ा फील हुआ था मुझे वहाँ जाने के बाद कुछ है नहीं वहाँ पर. और जब मैं वहाँ पहुँचा तो वहाँ पे बेसिकली जो होने चाहिए गाइड्स वो भी नहीं थे, हमको वेट करना पड़ा. फिर वो आए, उन्होंने बताया, उन्होंने बड़े दिल से बताया, बहुत अच्छे से समझाया हमको. लेकिन जब मैं पूरा वास्तु देखा था मुझे डेसिक्रेटेड हो चुका तो बड़ा फील हुआ. तो उसके बारे में कुछ डिटेल्स आपकी इस किताब में मिलेंगे पढ़ने के लिए.
मार्टिन is covered in this book and मार्टिन में एक बड़ी ही विचित्र कहानी है कि you know till 12th 13th century we had the Hindu rulers and फिर हमारे unfortunately because कश्मीर जितना भी सुंदर है उतना ही वो सबके लिए attractive है. You know everybody wants to have a piece of Kashmir and आसपास की जितनी भी countries हैं like we have China, we have Afghanistan, we have Pakistan. So they all wanted to grab Kashmir, and there've been invasions, the Turks, the Mughals, the Afghans, whoever, for their piece of the cake. So when they most of them landed, obviously हमारी fate अलग थी, जो भी था, that's different. That's how the world works. The aggressor, the invader will put his force above on you. So Martin की ये कहानी है कि जब एक रूलर एक इन्वेडर आए थे चिकन सिकंदर चिकन कहते हैं कि जब because everybody has a different faith with due respect to everybody he wanted to bring the temple down, so he burned the temple, he put it on fire, and it's a known story, I mean it's a known fact that he sat for months there to see the temple come down because आग महीनों तक चलती. It was huge. The complex out there, it is huge. It is beyond imagination how during those times, laborers, workers, architects, इतना ऊपर तक चढ़े हैं, इतने बड़े-बड़े ऊंचे columns बनाए. I'm sure आप लोगों ने वो हैदर मूवी आई थी उसमें एक बैकग्राउंड में सॉन्ग में जी. So imagine that कि वो स्क्रीन पे इतना बड़ा लग रहा था. Actually, it's imposing. It's like so imposing on you. And in good old times when things were good, उसके आंगन में आगे जो open space है वहाँ पे theaters होते थे, वहाँ festivals होते थे. See, that's again my point. Kashmir was much progressive than what you see now. Women in Kashmir were equal partners, equal stakeholders for everything. So open garden में जाना, open conversations करना, open festivals करना, it was norm. Like men and women going together. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं था. How it is portrayed now and how it is, unfortunately because there is no information. So that's the story, and it's covered here. It's in the book because it tells you the construction, the material used, and I've tried to put the book for the younger generation in a way that there is a sutradhar taking you through the book. So there is a character I've created, Kabir, who I think somewhere is me only. I mean, मैंने अपने आप को शायद उसमें कहीं डाला है कि वो readers को ले हर टेम्पल पे जा रहा है. As a research student, he's going and he's उसकी apathy भी है, उसको डर भी है, उसको रोना भी है. There is a sense of separation also, and he still wants to tell the story. And how did he appear into my thought process is again another story, because while I was doing this research, I ended up on a commentary by, I don't know how many of you are familiar, but Srinagar we had a very honored philosopher called Acharya Abhinavagupta. तो उन्होंने काफ़ी चीज़ों पे commentaries लिखी हुई हैं, be it spirituality, be it conduct of our life, social life, way back then. So उन्होंने धर्ममुनि के नाट्यशास्त्र पे भी commentary की थी. So when I read that essay, there was a beautiful thing. He said that rasa, I don't know how much you are students of art, and there is something called as ras. You know what is ras? Emotions, exactly. उन्होंने लिखा था कोई भी creative चीज आप करें ever, whether it is writing, painting, anything, there has to be rus, there has to be an emotion. So through Kabir, I was able to do that, justify that emotion that was in me, and he became my sutradhar, he became my voice to show that sense of separation, that sense of apathy.
Great. So हमने
That was a very long answer.
that was one of the best answers. This is what I realized when I was talking to her, that temples were not only for a certain process, it was also there for events. It was meant for people coming together, a social place for social discourse. So I have one more question, and then we can open the room for, we have some more questions here. Recently I had been to Sachi Stupa. Sachi Stupa, anybody has been?
You seem to be a traveler.
Yes, please travel.
You have given the
Route. Sorry. So what is there in Sachi Stupa? Every gate there was ways in which 6 BC to 4 BC to 2 BC and all that. There is a whole history of Sachi Stupa. और उनके जो गेट बने हैं वो द्वार पे कार्विंग्स की हुई हैं और वो कार्विंग्स स्टोरी है. और now वहाँ तो कुछ ऑफरिंग होती नहीं है, वहाँ कोई फूल अगरबत्ती नारियल सब तो होता नहीं. But then it's a sacred place. But then those carvings are something that attract you, और कोई गाइड होगा जो आपको बताएगा हर कार्विंग का मतलब क्या है. ऐसे जनरली मैंने इंडियन टेम्पल्स में होते हुए देखा, हिंदू टेम्पल्स में होते हुए नहीं देखा कि कोई गाइड है तो आपको बताता है ये कार्विंग जो है जस्ट लाइक दैट नहीं.
So actually, Bhavesh, जो book है, I tried to cover this aspect also because when I visited these places, unfortunately the guides, उनकी भी गलती है. Guides are, I wouldn't say misinforming, but there's no valid information. There is no, for somebody who has no link with Kashmir, वो अगर वहाँ पहुँचता है and he wants to know, let's say about Avanti Sopory temple or Martin temple or Parihasapura temples, they have no information. There's no literature, there's no pamphlet, there's nothing. And the guide is going to tell you, ये तो पांडव के घर. We know that the Pandavas had come. The Pandava, उनके जितने next generations, they had settled in Kashmir. But lived in Kashmir. But that doesn't mean everything was built by the Pandavas. No? There has to be a name. Like there is a complex by the name Narana, again a temple complex. Narana has multiple temples inside, like small garbhagryahas within the complex. And strangely, there have been different kings who have come in different times to build those temples. So whether it was Jaisimha, whether it was Vikramaditya, whoever has come at different time. But there is no labeling, there is no aging, there is no dating, there is nothing. So like you said, there's no guide to tell you, there's nobody to walk you through, to tell you ki this is how old this is, or this is the structure, this is the pattern. Because the Kashmiri temple structure is also different. It's called the Nagara architecture. I don't know how much. So it has a different look. If you see the temples of the south and your temples in the Kashmir city, they're different. We don't have corridors. The temples in Kashmir didn't have corridors. Like long corridors we see in south, we don't have. We have a courtyard, we have a large garbhagriha, we have a shikhar on the top, which is common. But the stones used are different, and the carvings are different for sure. So this thing is not covered. This thing nobody knows, and students of architecture, history, research would want to know, would want to have a handy thing. If they visit the place, they expect somebody to tell them this stuff. So I've raised that through my book.
So now situations in Kashmir are becoming better, favorable, I would say. Any message for the right people? What to do of these non-living temples?
So for me, my idea through this book is two. One is to create awareness, to tell general public, everybody, that these are the places that you have missed out. These are the places that you must see. bring them to the temples in Kashmir, bring them to Fire Temple, bring them to Pandritam Temple, bring them to Martin Temple, and these temples aren't just temples. These are like our cultural inheritances. This is our culture. So, like we preserve everything about India, we have to preserve these cultures also, because what is heritage then if it is not owned combined? It is not owned by everybody. It's a part of us. So, to begin with, what I see doable and foreseeable is use these temples as beautiful places to host events, to host festivals, to host book discussions, to host music festivals, to host movie festivals. These are doable because just very close to these temples, there are large spaces where such events can be easily created and without doing any harm to the original structure. And whoever visits these temples, of course you can't go unnoticed. Those structures behind can't get unnoticed. And yeah, as this goes on, I'm hopeful that we will turn them into living temples. And just one quick thing for everybody to know, we often talk about Nags. So in Srinagar is a valley which is blessed with springs, too many springs, and we call them Nag in Kashmir. So if you see Nag in the name of most temples, don't get confused. Like I said, Nag. So Nags in Kashmiri means those springs. But unlike in Sanskrit, we say Nags are serpents, are snakes. But in Kashmiri etymology, we call it springs. That's because the Aborigines, the people who originally lived in the valley of Kashmir, were dwellers who lived near the spring, and they worshipped the snakes in these springs. And over the time, it took the name Nags, and also you will observe that there will always be a Shiva temple next to these Nags, because snake, Shiva, it's all together. So every time you visit whichever temple you must visit, you must observe that there will be a spring and there will be a Shiva temple. And Shiva and Shakti is like twins we have.
Yes, please.
Very interesting technology. I want to ask you about the temples that we have covered in all categories. Are they spread all over Kashmir, including POK, or are they located or concentrated near Srinagar?
You can repeat the question also, correct?
I wanted to ask whether all the temples which are listed in the book or mentioned or described in the book, including all the categories, are they spread over all of Kashmir, including POK, or are they more concentrated near the Srinagar and all that?
Thank you, sir. That was a beautiful question, because when somebody has a question like this, or like I feel you're getting. For me, it's the Kashmir that I want to get interested in. So I've tried to cover temples in Kashmir. I've tried to cover maximum temples in the valley in Kashmir. That's because there is no dearth, and I can come up with another book of temples in Jammu and Ladakh, but for me Kashmir was the center point at this moment. So this has temples all about in Kashmir, but I've also covered the POK temple, the Sharda temple. So Pakistan occupied Kashmir, as I say, has a temple which is the Sharda Peeth, and for us it is the most revered temple.
Okay.
So, there is a shlok for us as kids when we begin our educational journey, and for anything extremely pious, any puja, any havan we do, we always start with this shlok, which is Namaste Sharde Devi Kashmir Purvasvi.
Can you not repeat this slowly?
Yeah. I just read it
So
then.
would you like to do that?
Yes.
It's in a second.
Sure.
I want to read it.
Still in summary, if you have a question, if I can know who has a question, you already have. You also have. Okay. We'll do it after the show, but I just try to understand this. Taking other time also. How many of us have ever been to Kashmir? You visited any temple there? Or you have? I mean, he knows how to gain attention of the whole world. And you learn from him.
So please excuse, I'm without my specs. So, yeah, it goes like this. Namaste Sharde Devi, Kashmir. Are we going to?
हम repeat कर रहा था.
Namaste Sharde Devi,
नमस्ते शारदे देवी,
Kashmir Purvasini,
कश्मीर पुरवासिनी,
Tvam Aham Prarthe Nityam,
त्वमहं प्रार्थे नित्यं,
Vidya Danam Ch Devni.
विद्यादानं च देहि.
So that's the shlok where we say salutation to O Sharda, O Goddess, the one who resides in Kashmir. I pray to you daily, please give me the charity of knowledge. So I'm getting goosebumps, sorry guys. I was without my sandal. So for us that place is extremely wise and extremely important. So I've covered that in this book, and I believe there is some work happening on getting not the temple really, but there's a parallel temple we're trying to create. So I hope
We
I
have a couple of people who have questions.
Kashmir is said to be seat of knowledge.
Yes.
And how do they Nalanda, Takshila, and all that? Kashmir is said to be seat of knowledge. And we also have Nalanda in Bihar now, and Takshila. So, which came first? Let me put it this way. How do you put these three things in perspective?
So for us, historically, as I understood and did my research, Sharda is the first university to come into existence. And it wasn't just Sharda. There's a temple, as you see the book, there is a temple called Vijeshwara Temple, and which is in the town of Bijbihara. Bijbihara is a place in Srinagar. It was a huge complex where travelers from across the world would come for these social, religious discussions, and scriptures were read, reread, and commentary would happen on those. And it wasn't something like a 2-day event or a 3-day event. It used to go on for months together. So Vijeshwara also is dated earlier, the BC time. Now it's called a pit temple.
Pit.
Because after all the demolition, or after all the breaking down of stuff, or whoever, whatever in their capacity have picked up all the broken sculptures and tiles and everything, put it in a pit. So that's why it's got a pit temple now for the larger popular jargon now. So they say that Jeshwara had a structure so tall that when the sun would rise, the building shadow would fall on one end of the city, and when the sun would fall, it would fall on the other side of the city.
Yes. Can you put the mic on?
Good afternoon, ma'am. As a travel student, when we are visiting the places like old temples, our teachers are there to make us understand about their values and old things like we are not aware about. But when we travel to other states or other countries, I think the guides are not guiding us properly. They are not giving us information. So what to do in that situation? Because recently I visited Odisha and I got a guide at Sun Temple, and he was giving some extra knowledge like it is made by Persians, it is made by like it was giving like Arabic culture kind of something. Oh God! And he was giving like nonsense talking. So then I got a proper guide, and he was like they are like trying to rob you and nothing else. So take government guides and all, but everywhere government guides are not available. So what to do?
Government. So, what to do? I think as student volunteers, because students are largest vehicle, are the biggest vehicle of for putting forth our information and putting forth our culture. So, as students, you can always do this volunteering thing for a heritage site in your city. Get the right knowledge, but I always personally will trust the government. I don't trust these scouts. You never know what information they have, and the ministry, the concerned ministry, take information from them, and then you, of course, it's important that you also do your homework based on the information they give, and then you are equipped enough to know.
Internet is there.
Yeah, and then see, internet can be always misguiding.
What are you referring?
Get the information from internet and apply your logic of mind.
Exactly, yeah. And yeah, internet.
Common sense.
Yes.
What is
yes.
fact and what is illusion.
Yes, true.
You can get a much more knowledge about that
True.
temple or
True. Yeah, and government establishments have their websites. You can take the information from them. Yeah.
We have one question. Yes.
Yes. Madam, I would like to know how do you see the future of the temples in Kashmir? And is there any movement going on for the restoration, preservation, etc. of these temples? I've seen one or two. I've been to Shankaracharya, I've seen the Ragna Devi temple. My granddaughter is named Ragna also.
Oh, lovely.
So, is there any movement going on for the restoration, preservation of these temples? If there is something, then maybe I'd like to join.
I would also like to go in case there's something like that. But yeah, the future I'm hopeful. The future I'm extremely positive that we will have these temples as die. We will have events. We will have them back in their thriving state. Regarding any movement happening, yes, there are. There are parallelly, in personal capacities, people are in collaboration with the concerned authorities, taking out awareness missions and trying to build a similar structure in the vicinity so that people can pay their respect to their deity. Because for us, as you said, the Regna, she's the deity for us. She's like the Tulmul temple is again a very pious place for us, and people do visit these places. And for temples which are under this temple called Pandretan, which is under the army, so it is in the cantonment area. So the Indian forces are looking after that temple, and people go there. But the idea is that why go in a very fearful mindset? So the idea of an army certainly tells you that things need to get normal. So I'm hopeful in coming times because the more we talk, the more the narrative changes.
Maybe some unified effort is required.
Yeah.
Maybe under the ASI or the state government.
Yeah, so I have raised my points with the ASI also. There's a list of things that I have written to the ASI as well. So I'm hopeful in times, and the more voices, the more they think it is worth their ears.
So, looking at the time, we will take one last question. And that cannot be yours because you So, moderators always have to be like this. Huh? We can take this question.
One basic question from where this philosophy of temples has originated. Means I have a question how this philosophy has developed. If you see for all over India, we have temples. Concept is temple is there. Deity is mainly Shiva. How it must have been originated. किसको ख्याल होगा कि ये इस टाइप का concept है ना? It has flourished all over even South Asia, subcontinent across.
So to me, I have to make this confession that I'm not a research student, I'm not an archaeologist, but I definitely have this quest to know, this curious quest to know about culture. So in my little knowledge, I understand that temples, two things that I understand. One is we always look to hold something. When anybody is drowning, you always look to hold for something, a physical thing, maybe the tube or whatever, that we need to survive. So likewise in our spiritual journey, we always want to see a picture. Maybe a sculpture, maybe a photo, maybe something that we know that okay, this is my supreme, this is the God, this is how he looks. And then over generations and over, as we think, we try to make it beautiful, we try to make it attractive, whether it's Shiva or Shakti. And that's one. And secondly, I strongly understand now that temples originally started as a social point. As people from different cultures to come assemble, converse, like Sharda temple has these barracks around it. So people from across the world traveled for months together, lived there, had conversations, they worked on building the literature for art, for dance and everything. So they were like the melting points. And then perhaps we thought, because we all were worshippers of Saraswati, and we all thought that what can be a more pious place than this, because this is where all the important and informative conversations are happening. So maybe there we started to keep our deities in the Garbhagriha, stuff like that.
Thank you. If I can say something. So, I have one small thing to share. As I told you, we पिछले 3 दिन से बात कर रहे हैं. And I realized one thing, that at a certain given point of time, आपको अगर आपका घर छोड़ना पड़े, आपको कहीं और relocate होना पड़े, is that a great situation? The whole community has to move out. Is that a great situation? No. So somebody who's already experienced that one, not so good experience she already has. And coming, not talking about that, talking about only the good things. I saw जब हम सब श्लोक पढ़ रहे थे और ये पढ़ रहे थे, तो this is something that I could observe sitting here, that she had removed her footwear. Footwear निकाल लिया था while reading that श्लोक. A person like that, and ma'am there, she said, if there is anything happening, making something good in the society about temples, can we all be a part of it? I think one small gesture that we can all pay as a good gesture. And उतना तो ठीक है. उसके बाद coming down from Delhi, being here in the city for 3 days just to talk to all of us. That's great, right? Can you have a round of applause for her? One small thing what we can all do is order this book. If you feel it is great for you, read it. If you feel you are not the right person for this book, gift it to a person you feel you should gift it to. Can we all shout out I if you ever want to buy this book? Let's shout out I. A lot of us I heard. It's on Amazon. The name of the book is Ancient and Lost Temples of Kashmir. Let's make them brighter in coming years. Thank you, Avanti.
Sir, ma'am, can you just describe the book in short?
Book का cover describe करेंगे और मुझे एक और चीज़ चाहिए. I don't know इस sessions में allowed है कि नहीं है. Can we have a group photo with her? Yes. Or can we do that? Yeah. Go to you. You can describe the cover.
So the book cover has, I just get up. So the book cover has the famous Tirumul temple. The one in Gadarbar, the one that Ram was talking about, Raghunath temple. So this is the book cover. But this temple is just a drawing done by a small artist, I think in the 1800s, in the 19th century. And by chance, a copy of this traveled in that little suitcase that we carried with us in in 1990 to our one-bedroom house and a common toilet bathroom house in Delhi. And it happened to be in that, and as luck would have it, I have it here on the book cover. So this has Maharaja, the Dogra Maharaja, Pratap Singh, standing there in obedience to Mata Raghuna. So this is that. And on the back, if you see, there are silhouettes of Matan temple. So I'm trying to show both the things that we have to move from here to here. Thank you so much for doing this beautiful job and completely energetic audience, and everybody's been so participative. I didn't feel like I didn't know. I knew you for the first time. It feels like I've been talking to you guys for a long time. So thank you for all the honor, and thank you to OCLF. Thank you to the Rysons for giving me this opportunity. And I had 2 sessions yesterday and I had a session day before yesterday. But if I can confess and honestly say, I enjoyed this the most. I
So you guys.